1230 WBVP 1460 WMBA 99.3 FM presented by St. Barnabas, 95.7 FM. This is streaming at beavercountyradio.com. You can use the free app. Jack Manning, you're worldwide right now. If people in Rhodesia, which I don't even know if it's still a country.
I believe so.
Is it? Somebody in Rhodesia going, hey, Jack Manning's going to be on today because it's Ask the Commissioners. We've got him covered. How are you, Commissioner Manning?
I don't know what my following is like in Rhodesia. I'm doing well. I mean, it's sobering times.
Yes.
Globally, and it always gives you pause.
Yeah.
But it also makes you reflect on the freedoms and where we live.
As big a gripe as you may have, it could be quickly worse.
Yeah, we got complaints yesterday at the work session that the water wasn't hot enough coming out of the sinks with the no flush and
the water wasn't
and the hands
hot
free
enough.
Stuff. Well, yeah, it was.
Well, isn't that I don't want to get all technical this early and off the. Isn't that the water heater in the home?
No, this is in the courthouse. We went to touchless
courthouse.
For safety reasons. We went to touchless.
Yeah.
Toilets.
And the water wasn't hot enough.
And got some complaints.
Life's hard,
man.
Life's hard.
I can't get too riled up about that. And trust me, I'm an advocate of washing your hands.
Right.
And I have hand sanitizer that I still use all the time. But trivial things like that right now. I don't have a whole lot of time to be thinking about those versus all the opportunities we have in front of us as a county right now with the American Rescue Plan,
right,
and the different initiatives that we're trying to work on.
Well, I'm going to get into that. Yep. I'm going to ask you because your background in the industry. Before it's over, we're going to get into world politics and the effect industry can have on it. Mm-hmm. But yesterday you had the commissioner's work session.
Yes.
My first question: when you walk into the work session, is that a class that you come into with notes, or is that a class that you come into and start the brainstorming? What is, for the people that don't know, because we cover it, but what is a work session?
Yeah, so it's a combination of both those.
Okay.
One, it's things that we may want to communicate and get on the agenda to have conversations about. But it's also an opportunity for our department heads and for the public to give us issues that are happening. So, for instance, Dan Colville, our tremendous director of Public Works, gave us an update of what was happening with Brush Creek. As you know, the flooding and the ice flows.
Say it's got something to do
and
with
all
flooding.
that. The bridge was underwater. It had to be inspected by PennDOT till we could open it. Although most of the public was ignoring the fact that it was technically closed and still going to Brush Creek.
Yeah.
But he gave us an update on that. There are updates on other projects. There's a big paving project that we put out for bid last year that they got as much on as they could before the winter set in. Now that it's starting to be asphalt season again, where they start laying.
Is that a season?
There is a season for laying
asphalt
for making and.
Can we swap that? No baseball season. Well, it's okay. It's asphalt season.
I don't know. Apparently, there is no baseball season.
Not
right
yet.
Now. But yeah, so he gave us an update on Youngblood paving.
Okay.
When they're going to finish up all of the things that weren't finished up. Everything from paving in Brady's Run to the magistrate offices to the parking lots in different areas. Some of it was done, some of it was put on hold until the weather got better. And so he gave us an update on that. Just other things going. Tony Caltori comes in, our director of Parks, Recreation, and Tourism, giving us an update, and there was articles on it. The Soul Food Trail.
I'm very upset stuff. I was not consulted with Scott Tatey, who wrote that article.
Yeah, well,
I'm bringing that up with him later.
He has a program here. Yeah, jump on it.
That's a very cool thing. On that.
But it's a neat thing they're doing. There's through this Benwango, this website. There'll be these different trails. So it's a way to market the county, way to help our restaurant business, which is so vital to the economy and the vibrancy of our towns and townships. So
is it coming back?
All that kind of stuff comes into play. And then if there's any questions from the public that come up, we're there to address them.
All right, if you do have a question, you can call with your question. You can also post your question. This is being streamed live on our Facebook page, Beaver County Radio. That's Jack sitting right there. That sounds like a whole lot of irons in the fire from the outside looking in.
Well, there's, for me, somebody that's been through different experiences, different backgrounds, different employment opportunities, things with the chamber and everything else, it's exciting because it's, you never know what to expect and what's going to come in front of you, and keeps you on your toes. never knowing what kind of questions going to come up. So
How often do you get yelled at in a week about stuff that you've got no control over? Just a general ballpark number.
Well,
Not yelled at, but question.
most things we get questions or yelled at are things that are outside of our control.
So more than 50%.
Yeah, so again, I wish the schools would invest a little bit more in civics and let them understand the Commonwealth and how that works. And
Well, but
local municipalities and the county government is the least influential in terms of making that stuff happen. But we're an essential part of that with the stuff that flows through from the federal government
Right.
and from the state.
Can you do that? Call it. Can I come and just give a 1 hour civics or one class civics lecture?
Why?
Because as a student, didn't you love when you had a guest speaker?
Sure. Yeah.
Go in and say, here's the stuff that we get yelled at. People this.
I have been invited in a few times, Central Valley, a couple of other school districts, to come in and visit different classes on different issues. In fact, that Tony Amadeo taught civics for
Forever.
I don't know.
Yeah.
For how long? So Tony would be our designated civics instructor. But it doesn't frustrate me that much. I try to have rational conversations on why we can't do that, or why we don't have direct control, that's your local municipality who has your ordinances, your permitted uses, and the impact on whether your trash gets picked up, and those kinds of things.
Right.
And even with whether the potholes get fixed, I mean, usually it's a PennDOT issue. We, as a county, we own, I think, less than 4 or 5 miles worth of total roads in Beaver County.
Really?
We own the 57 bridges that we talked about, but there's still 3 times more than that the railroads, PennDOT, or local authorities control.
You brought up earlier, somebody complained that the water wasn't hot enough.
Well,
When the water broke in Ambridge, because I'm still seeing reports it's still boil advisory. I live in Ambridge.
yeah.
We have water back as of right now, or as of 6 o'clock last night. I think we were still under a boil advisory. As the group of commissioners, is there anything that you can do?
Well, here's what we did do,
Okay.
and that's a good example of where the county can step in.
Okay.
So our 911 center is also located
Right down
there.
the block.
And emergency services. So we offered pumps, different things to help the water authority get back up. We were coordinating, handing out bottled water and stuff through the fire departments and the like. So that's where we can step in and help. And we can also be a liaison with the Pennsylvania Emergency Management Association. We can bring in other resources if that was to be a real long-term disaster,
Right.
if you will, on those things. But we don't control the Ambridge Water Authority
Right.
and the municipality of Ambridge, right? The borough.
Yeah, that's the red trucks or the white trucks that say AWA on them. Because I see them all the time.
Okay.
1230 WBVP, 1460 WMBA, 99.3 FM, presented by St. Barnabas. Jack Manning is my guest. We're asking the commissioners. This is also being live streamed. I did see something actually happen. The goofy opening question every time I see you is, where are we with reassessment?
Yeah.
Something actually changed with reassessment. We moved forward, did we not?
Well,
Over the last week or two, I remember seeing something happening.
Well, they're now at the point where people will start getting mailed the preliminary estimate of here's your square footage, here's how many bathrooms, here's whatever, here's what we have on file. It'll be a one-page front and back sheet that people start getting in the mail. saying, if you dispute any of the information, let us know, because this is what we've now collected by our visits. This is what we now have on file, and this is what we'll be basing the evaluations of your property on. So
Is
that
this
is
one
a new phase that,
Okay.
that we're moving into.
Is this when it goes from complaining about not knowing what's up to complaining about actual paperwork?
Well,
Potentially.
potentially we may now get people's attention a little bit more
Okay.
once they get to see that. But I think the real pushback will be when the actual numbers go out, and we'll have a series of educational sessions, and there'll be things set up to appeal those, to look at those. But that's 2023.
All right, it's 12:30 WBVP. I've got more questions for Jack. Don't worry about it. I will ask him after this. 12:30 WBVP, 1460 WMBA. It's Beaver County Radio.
You can run out and buy a new car, if you can find one, or you can take good care of the one you've got. Take it from Steve at Junction Auto Service. It's all about maintenance. A lot of things have changed in the past few years, but taking care of your vehicle isn't one of them. Now more than ever before, it makes good sense to maintain the vehicle you have. Nobody does that better than Junction Auto. Mention you heard this ad and get 10% off any service. Visit junctionautoservice.com or stop by 425 Constitution Boulevard, New Brighton.
Did you ever think you would see a day when nobody showed up for the big city holiday parades or pro sports events? This is Michelle from Laughlin Insurance Agency in Rochester. If nothing else, this past year has taught us that things we never considered possible can happen and that nobody can predict the future. At the Laughlin Agency, your Penn National insurance provider, we give you the ability to protect against loss during unexpected times. Who knows what the future holds? Visit LaughlinInsAgency.com.
You're listening to Ask the Commissioners on WBVP, WMBA, 99.3 FM, and Facebook Live. The Commissioners are awaiting your questions by calling 724-843-1888 or 724-774-1888. Today's show is brought to you by Huntington Bank, the Laughlin Insurance Agency, and Beaver Valley Auto Mall. Click BeaverValleyCars.com. You can also post comments or questions in the Facebook Live video feed. And now, it's your chance to Ask the Commissioners, right here on Beaver County Radio.
Never seemed to be. Yeah.
It is Ask the Commissioners. If you've got a question for Jack Manning, I got plenty more. Some of my questions for the next half hour, it's about being a commissioner, but it's also about your previous life. And before I get into that, for people that don't know, you were a part of the manufacturing sector at a high level for a long time. You dealt with multinational companies on a daily basis, right?
Yes. Yep.
Because we've talked off the air a little bit about it.
Yeah.
I do want to get into the worldview right now. And I see people, well, we're going to boycott this and we're going to unplug from this and Shell's going to take their money that they're giving. How big an impact does that actually have? Because you've sat in those meetings, you've seen those spreadsheets. When you see somebody say, we're unplugging completely, we're not like, the first one was, we're not going to sell Russian vodka in PA. Yeah. When does it stop becoming posing and when does it start becoming financially a liability? Is there a tipping
liability
point?
to the company?
To the people your company or people you're trying to punish?
Try to punish. Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, the multinationals, and a good portion of my career was working for them before I got into some other things that dealt more like at the chamber with mom and pop shops and small business owners and the like. But, financially it does have an impact on them, but they can absorb it. The multinationals, I believe they can absorb it. Some of it's more symbolic than it actually is in terms of impact. I mean, talking specifically about Ukraine and what's happening there with these things, I don't know if we've gone far enough to create enough pain for Putin and Russia.
Come on, they just took a guy's $5 million yacht off him. That's got to count for something.
Boo-hoo. Oh, the humanity that somebody lost access to their yacht.
Yeah.
So I don't know. There's still so many global ties there that it's difficult to sever and maybe make it up. certainly the optics and the political will and the unity behind that.
Right.
90-some Western countries are supporting them and trying
Everybody-
to do what they can. I think is a positive thing. I mean, we value our democratic countries. We value our freedom and democracy here. And I think we need to do everything we can to support that. And I think the multinational corporations, which are usually based in Western democracies,
Yeah.
whether it be the Netherlands or the U.S. or Canada or the U.K., France. I mean, there's some big multinational companies that trade across those borders, and I think it's important to be able to do some of that. The fact that we're unified in this is a positive thing. How much impact it's going to have, that's way above my pay grade, although I do sit on foreign relations webinars on a routine basis just to hear what's happening globally.
Do you really?
I do, yeah.
Where do you sit in on that?
Well, there's a website, the Foreign Affairs
Really?
Relations group that meets routinely, and once a month they'll have something. Well, some of it's on domestic policy. I sat on one on the impact of inflation and where inflation was going. There was another one that was talking more about the global impact of what's happening with Ukraine and how that trickles down and has impact again on the costs, on inflation, on wages, and those kinds of things.
All right, Jack Manning is my guest. I'm going to pick your brain more because I didn't know there was such a thing as a website where you could listen to webinars of international relations.
Yeah.
I'm going to get schooled up in the second half hour. News is next on Beaver County Radio.
Yeah.
You're listening to Beaver County Radio, 1230 WBVP Beaver Falls and 1460 WMBA Ambridge, broadcasting live from the St. Barnabas studios.
95.7 and 99.3 FM, along with WBVP, WMBA, and BeaverCountyRadio.com, invite you to tune in to Sounds of Faith. Tune in Sunday mornings from 7 until 9 for a mix of the best sacred music of all time. Sounds of Faith is brought to you by Crawford Tire and Beaver, the William Murphy Funeral Home, City Rescue Mission, MRS Physical Therapy, Circle of Friends, J&J Spratt Funeral Home, and Rome Monument and Inspirational Gifts. Sounds of Faith, uplifting, relaxing, and inspiring radio. Sunday mornings from 7 until 9 on 95.7 and 99.3 FM, along with WBVP, WMBA, and BeaverCountyRadio.com.
Did you ever think you would see a day when nobody showed up for the big city holiday parades or pro sports events? This is Michelle from Laughlin Insurance Agency in Rochester. If nothing else, this past year has taught us that things we never considered possible can happen and that nobody can predict the future. At the Laughlin Agency, your Penn National insurance provider, we give you the ability to protect against loss during unexpected times. Who knows what the future holds? Visit LaughlinInsAgency.com.
Hi, I'm Congressman Connor Lamb. My Beaver County office is here to help with issues regarding federal agencies, including the Social Security Administration, Medicare, Department of Veterans Affairs, and the IRS. Last year, we helped to return more than $2 million to local taxpayers. Call 724-206-4860 or visit my website at lamb.house.gov to learn more about what my office can do to help you. This ad was paid for with official funds authorized by the House of Representatives.
You're listening to Beaver County Radio, 1230 WBVP Beaver Falls and 1460 WMBA Ambridge, broadcasting live from the St. Barnabas studios.
Beaver County Radio's news source, 95.7 and 99.3 FM, along with 1230 WBVP, 1460 WMBA, and streaming at BeaverCountyRadio.com. Here's Frank Sparks.
And good morning, as today's forecast is called for mostly sunny skies today. High is going to be 35 degrees. We'll have a complete Beaver County Radio weather forecast coming up for you right after we have this look at news. The 2021 Treasurer's Report has come out for Beaver County. Yesterday was the Commissioner's work session. Matt Durzik has more from the Beaver County Courthouse.
At the Commissioner's work session on Wednesday, Beaver County Treasurer Sandy Egley distributed the latest numbers on Beaver County tax collecting and detailed the highs and lows of some of the numbers.
And as you know, I have discussed this at length with you about the interest collected between banks is massive. And while some of this comes from grants from federal dollars and comes with guidelines that must be placed in a non-interest-bearing account, the majority of funds do not. So I would ask you if you would look at the difference between the banks and maybe move over some money to a larger interest-bearing account. The last section shows the collection rate of the Treasurer's Office. The collection rate is the amount of tax collected in any one year, and it is at a 12-year high.
That 12-year high was 95% of collected taxes in Beaver County, a over 6% increase from 2020. From the courthouse, I'm Matt Durzik for Beaver County Radio News.
Aliquippa City Council met last night. Beaver County Radio News correspondent Sandy Giordano has more.
4 bids for the brick site cleanup were opened by City Manager Sam Gill at Wednesday night's meeting, and they will be reviewed by City Engineer Ron Rizzo before Council makes the award. Council approved a resolution requesting a statewide local share assessment grant for $990,000 from the Commonwealth Financing Authority for the replacement of roofs on the fire and police departments, the city building, and the road department building. The purpose of the grant is for infrastructure improvements, according to Mr. Gill. City Finance Chairman Donald Walker reported residents are paying their taxes, and the city's fund balance is the highest for a decade. A meeting with Waste Management is scheduled to discuss trash bills and other issues residents have reported to the city concerning the hauler. This is Sandy Giordano reporting from Beaver County Radio.
The Beaver County Democratic Committee is partnering with prospective candidates as well as area food pantries in a one-stop collection event this weekend. To help candidates gather ballot signatures, voters can motor up to a drive-through event from 10 a.m. until 4 p.m. this Sunday, March the 6th at the committee's headquarters located at 426 Adams Street in Rochester. While they're there, Democratic voters can also drop off canned goods to benefit the Little Free Pantries of Beaver County. Now, Committee Chairman Terry Mitko said via release that in 2022, Democrats are dedicated to delivering results to all of Beaver County. We are proud to find ways to try and pair our political work with our activities that assist our neighbors. You can get more information, including the items that will be accepted for donation, by going to our website at beavercountyradio.com. Allegheny Health Network has received charitable sponsorship from PNC Bank to improve health equity in the greater Pittsburgh region. The funding will support AHN's Healthy Food Center at West Penn Hospital, as well as the health system's First Steps and Beyond program to improve black infant health outcomes. According to the Greater Pittsburgh Food Bank, 1 in 5 Pittsburgh residents experiences food insecurity, meaning they lack consistent access to nutritious foods, which are critical to an active, healthy lifestyle. Funding from the PNC Bank will help to sustain the AHN Healthy Food Center at the West Penn Hospital in its efforts to link food and medicine for improved patient health care outcomes. In recognition of PNC's generous support, this Healthy Food Center location has been designated as the PNC Pantry.
Here's the Beaver County forecast on 95.7 and 99.3 FM. Along with 1230 WBVP, 1460 WMBA, and streaming at beavercountyradio.com.
Mostly sunny today with a high of 35 degrees. Then overnight tonight, mostly clear, low down to 19. Tomorrow, mostly sunny, high up to 44. Saturday, mostly cloudy, high 63. Sunday is going to be the warm day of the weekend. Showers early in the day, high is going to be up to 68 degrees. Then showers back in the forecast on Monday, high of 55 degrees. That is a look at the news for now. I'm Frank Sparks, Beaver County Radio News, 95.7 and 99.3 FM, presented by St. Barnabas, 1230 WBVP, 1460 WMBA, and beavercountyradio.com.
You're listening to Ask the Commissioners on WBVP, WMBA, 99.3 FM, and Facebook Live. The Commissioners are awaiting your questions by calling 724-843-1888. or 724-774-1888. Today's show is brought to you by Huntington Bank, the Laughlin Insurance Agency, and Beaver Valley Auto Mall. Click BeaverValleyCars.com. You can also post comments or questions in the Facebook Live video feed. And now, it's your chance to Ask the Commissioners, right here on Beaver County Radio.
It is Ask the Commissioners. Jack Manning is my guest. The first half hour we talked about a few different things, but one thing that got a little bit mentioned that I want to go back to, if you'd be so kind. Do we still have that boatload of government money sitting in our pocket?
Well, that
And not to be, specific and correct about it, the America Rebuild.
American Rescue Plan.
American Rescue
Act,
Plan
yeah.
Act.
So yeah, that pot is being allocated to multiple different initiatives, and we're making some very good progress. I was on there's a County Commissioner Association of Pennsylvania called CCAP. We have a conference coming up in Harrisburg, actually, in a couple of weeks. And one of the issues we'll be talking about more extensively countywide is broadband. And I'm proud that in Beaver County we are ahead of, I was just on this Zoom call yesterday afternoon with various counties. There were over 100 people on the call. And they're still trying to sort out how do they organize around broadband, how do they identify their areas, how do they map things. And we are so fortunate.
They're talking about how to find out what they need.
Yeah, they're at the stage of trying to hire consultants to help them figure out what to do with broadband in their communities. And some of these are the more rural counties that have maybe 40,000 people in them, And I understand the difficulty in trying to get broadband out there. But I am so proud of the effort that our Planning and Redevelopment Committee that Director Lance Grable has done and Baker Engineering has done, because we started on this even before the pandemic hit.
Even before the money showed up.
Before the money showed up and before we even knew where the money was going to come from, we were working on something called our GIS Atlas that was mapping the entire county through GIS. And then with that, broadband fit very nicely into understanding the areas where broadband was accessible, or internet service was accessible, where it was poor. We had input, as you recall, we had a website where people could dial in and get your upload and download speeds. So we've identified those pockets. We've allocated $19.75 million to the initiative to get broadband into a couple of pockets where we have economy of scale to try and lay something down to give access for a little over 2,500 households that have no access, not
limited
that
access.
They haven't tapped into it, or it's poor. They have no access at all. Now, some of the people there may not want to be. That may be why they moved out to where they did. They want to stay disconnected.
But you don't have to take the access.
Well, no, and I said repeatedly, in this day and age, if you have kids in school, if you're trying to even do telemedicine, which is becoming
doctor's appointments,
more and more,
Zoom conference,
especially in the rural areas where you can't get to a physician or a hospital. So telemedicine, shopping from home, getting groceries delivered from home, entertaining your family. I mean, if you don't, working from home for those that have those kind of positions that can work from home, if you aren't connected to the internet and to the world there, those 5 things are very difficult to pull off. So I can't think of anything more impactful for the development of Beaver County and for the quality of life of Beaver County residents than broadband. And I've been on this kick for a while, and we're doing great. And Lance and his team, and Jeremy from Michael Baker International, those guys are doing a great job, and we are way ahead of the curve, and we're now showing some other folks in other counties how we're doing this, and we'll have some conversations in a couple of weeks in Harrisburg, some more conversations about it. But we're ready to start working with about 7 internet providers, the Verizons, the Comcast, the different people that are already established in the county to work with expanding their capacity.
Okay, those are the ones that are already here, regardless. How much behind the 8 ball are the other counties? Because what you just described does not sound like an afternoon's work. That sounds like a long
I mean,
stretch.
again, we're almost 2 years into this process, and now we're ready to start putting fiber cable down and starting to deliver some services where a lot of the counties are just scratching the surface.
Talking about the money, has that been cleared? I remember you told me before this big pile of money. you have to, as the county and as the commissioners, you have to make sure what you spend it on ends up being okay with the people that gave it to you.
Yeah, it's the U.S. Treasury.
Right.
Yeah, and I mean, I've said this before. I have grave concerns about our national debt. I'm a fiscal conservative.
30 trillion?
If the government's going to give us our money back
Right.
into Beaver County to spend, we're going to make sure it's done in the most effective way for the greatest good. For the quality of life of Beaver County. And just one more thing with the broadband. I mean, future economic development, being able to attract and retain young families, let alone businesses into the area. Broadband is just as important as water, sewer, electrical hookups, and everything else. And we hear that repeatedly from businesses that are looking to expand and bring growth into the area. What's your internet service like, capacity like, what's the broadband like? So and that's why it's important, and that's one of the reasons why we're doing that. But of the money that we've gotten so far, that's been the biggest thing that we've allocated to it. And then, we asked for submissions from the municipalities, again, to take that money that was coming into the county
Right.
and divvy it up in our 53.5 municipalities that are out there on other qualifiable projects that the Treasury deemed as qualifiable,
Right.
which is water, sewer, stormwater runoff, infrastructure type projects as well. And we were overwhelmed actually by the number of $92 million that we'll be getting when we get our second half this year total. Seems like a lot until you realize that we had $66 million worth of ideas or projects submitted to us
So it is a
in
lot
this first round.
up to a point.
It's not going to go nearly as far as we
Right.
think. And then, you throw in the roads and the bridges and stuff, and we're still not sure what we're going to get from a county standpoint. I know the state, and I was on the radio after Connor Lamb last week.
Right.
On that thing. I know the state's getting like $14 billion through the bipartisan infrastructure bill that was passed. But we don't know how much of that $14 billion coming to the state is going to be earmarked for Beaver County and what specifically it's going to go to. So far, broadband hasn't been mentioned in that, but it's mainly roads and bridges. But again, that money's not going to go nearly far enough to repair all the roads, all the bridges that Pennsylvania has. I just hope that somehow Beaver County gets a fair share to help us with some of the bigger issues that we have with roads and bridges.
As a fiscal conservative, how concerned are you that because this is a one-time money thing, and the best needs to be made of it while we have it. How concerned are you that we're going to look up, the money's going to be gone, and we didn't get done what we could do?
Well, I know you never get everything done.
True.
Right? It's
Yeah.
what in the business world we used to call an evergreen process. You're constantly going to have to keep working on things, and then after you repair some things, 20 years later they got to be repaired,
Like
and
water
improved
pipes,
as well. So it's a constant cycle. But I can tell you that the way we're investing, clearly, if there's things that are in immediate failure and demise so much, we're doing that. But we're also looking at where we can add new infrastructure that will help foster growth. So if we can
Getting an
connect-
evergreen process of the finite amount of money.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, there's one project specifically we were looking at where we're going to extend water and sewer into an area that potentially hundreds of new homes could be built into to bring new residents, new affordable housing, new opportunities for people. And then there's a lot, particularly in our legacy riverfront towns where it's just aging infrastructure.
Right.
And it needs to be repaired because it's failing. We've got a huge issue in Midland with a stormwater runoff that's been a problem that could create some chaos. So trying to balance where we do that so that it's for future growth, future sustainable growth, versus just broke fix kind of opportunities.
Has anybody from the Ambridge Water sent you a letter saying, we need a new valve? Because we're a week something into that.
Well, they missed the deadline for filing that.
You don't get special dispensation?
I'm just kidding, but I'm sure there is some money that is available through state, through PEMA, through other things for those kind of emergency repairs. But we have gotten a lot of projects that we approved from various water and municipal authorities that are trying to upgrade and improve their facilities or expand their facilities for future growth.
part of a job as a commissioner that you do is to look to the future. How frustrating is it when maybe people don't understand how important infrastructure is until it goes away, or they don't understand, in the case of broadband, how infrastructure can be important because they've never had it?
Yeah.
You got to get people to understand this on a more consistent basis rather than there's not enough hot water.
Yeah, I do think a vast majority of people, especially coming out of 2 years of this pandemic and all the stuff there,
The mask
understand
time.
the importance of not only having access, but having good, reliable, quality service of broadband is important. And I don't want to just stop at getting another 2,500 homes hooked up, but
Right.
there are plenty of homes in which if you have multiple kids on multiple iPads trying to do their homework, and the strength of the signal coming in is not good enough for everybody to be online at the same time. So we need to improve the upload and download speeds, the quality of it, and that's why we're working with these 7 providers. I know Comcast has already offered some improved services in different places where they're already hooked up. And there's other opportunities through different funding that allows poor neighborhoods, poorer families, people in the poverty level to get subsidies to be able to hook up to the internet as well.
From where we are now, is there a timeline you've got? When you just said one of the companies has already started the process, do all 7 have to start the process to cover all the areas you're talking about, or is it,
Right
how do
right
you
now,
work
we're
through
just
it?
dealing with a couple of people
Okay.
in these areas because it's kind of their territory where they're the closest provider that could extend their service to do that. I don't want to get into mentioning too many of the names.
That's okay, I understand.
We'll be having a press conference on this in a few weeks.
Okay.
To talk more extensively about, okay, now we're actually going to start digging. We're actually going to.
So within the next few weeks,
start
you're
to
going to
go.
be able to say, we're in this part of Beaver County,
Here
you
are the
don't have it,
neighborhoods,
you
here are the
will.
areas, and this is, yeah. And-
How long does it take from digging to actually losing the yellow blinky light of death on your modem?
Yeah.
To it working?
I know that was just a routine
Right.
occurrence in my house. We're hoping by the end of the year to have made significant progress on getting those people access. But one of my concerns, as we talked about earlier, is inflation, labor, the cost of labor, the access of labor, supply chain delays.
Yeah.
Those are the things.
I got to believe installing cable and internet services, there's a chip somewhere involved in that.
Well, the biggest thing is just 67 counties. I was just on a call. Everybody wants to do broadband.
Right.
How many people can actually know what they're doing in laying the fiber, laying the cable, connecting homes, doing all that stuff? So the labor market's pretty tight right now. So that's one factor. And then the second is, can you get all the cable? Can you get everything you need to be able to do all those things? So those are things we're sorting through and making sure. But that's why I'm glad we're kind of out in front.
Oh,
Because
yeah.
we'll have access to that. I got a call from a gentleman, Ed Hill Jr. from IBEW, and their folks are ready and looking for the next project and where they can jump in and help with this, and some other union folks in the area that want to.
Well, that had to be
part of
good
this
news,
process.
right? That you
Yep.
know, it's like, all right,
Yep.
we got people waiting with tool belts right now.
Mm-hmm.
How much of a selling point does that become to speed up the process from the internet providers?
So again, this is something the commissioners aren't going to control directly who does that, because we're
Okay.
going to have to work with the internet service providers, and they're going to be the ones that are going to decide who does the work for them.
Right.
And does that, but we're
Yeah,
there.
but you're still going to get blamed if my internet doesn't work at home.
Well,
Yeah.
my daughter-in-law blames me
The blinking yellow
today
light.
on that stuff. But yeah, so those are just some of the things, and it's exciting to be able to have some resources
Right.
to be able to make this impact, because it really is a once in a generation, once in a lifetime opportunity. Things like we discussed yesterday in the work session. We had somebody from the Fire Chiefs Association there, Chuck Bates, and you know, we're going to buy the radios that they've been talking about with the new frequency and stuff for emergency, for fire departments, police, emergency services, ambulances, and the like, because they're reaching a deadline where those radios that they have are all going to be obsolete, and they've been trying to piecemeal replace those radios.
Is it the 3G, 4G thing, or are they just old radios? Or?
Yeah, it's just the
They're
analog,
dying.
the frequencies, and everything else. They just need to be upgraded, need to be changed. It's
Okay.
another thing that, again, every 20 years or so, and maybe even sooner when it comes to technology, if you aren't upgrading to the latest, you aren't going to be able to do that. But there are emergencies that happen countywide where some fire departments can't talk to each other. People, and even within the fire departments, they can't. People in a burning structure can't talk to the people outside. We have issues in some of the more rural areas of Beaver County, and just cell phone coverage, let alone radio coverage and stuff. So, I mean, it's a vital tool for our emergency services folks countywide. It's probably the most important thing outside of their own protective equipment and fire engines and those kinds of things. The radios are just extremely important. And it's something that has been a looming deadline there for a while, and we're going to set aside some of that money and help fund on 80-20 match. We'll pay 80, but the municipalities, the fire departments have to come up with a 20, and then we'll start buying a bulk number of radios to help I think it's 44 or 47 fire departments and 34 or 35 police departments, and then you have
So if
the
everybody
different,
gets one, you're over 80 radios.
no, we're talking, a lot more than 80, because you need them in different trucks, command centers, different people.
Anybody involved needs to have one.
Yeah, probably each of those entities are going to need 5 or 6 at a minimum. But we're asking them for input. We've been working with the Beaver County Council of Governments and their public safety group to understand all the requirements, all the specs. We'll be having a meeting middle of this month where they'll come in to the table, let us know what their needs are, and we'll start processing that and hopefully start supplying again, supply chain.
Well, that was my next question. Does somebody have 150 or 200 radios?
Good question.
Good question.
But there are people looking into that.
Ballpark figure, what is a radio? I've never shopped for a fireproof radio before.
Well, these radios, I don't know. I'm just going off anecdotal data, but the fire chief, Chuck Bates, said, years ago these were $500 radios. Now we're talking about $5,000 radios. I mean, that's how much these things have evolved in the technology and the cost. So in 20 years, they probably went from 500 to 5,000 or so.
Okay, well,
it's not a cheap endeavor, which is why most of the volunteer fire departments have been struggling to replace them, because they don't have an extra 15,000 sitting around to buy a couple of new radios.
I mean, fish fries are kicking up again, but it's tough to
And
come up with 15.
That's generally how they've had to do that, through bingo and
fish fries and spaghetti dinners.
Spaghetti dinners and those kinds of things. So we're really trying to help them out the best we can. And Chairman Camp made this proposal, and Tony and Dan and I are all on page, because I've been talking to these guys for the 2 years I've been in office, and every meeting I go to, every fire department, like, what are we going to do about radio? So we're glad to be able to have some financing to do it. It's obviously, again, a once in a lifetime, certainly once in the last 20 years, kind of an opportunity.
No, you're talking about money that will save lives.
Absolutely.
As simple as that. And the last couple of years, there haven't been fish fries and there haven't been spaghetti dinners.
Well,
so this money is absolutely a godsend.
Yeah, and I reflect back on my industry days when I was a plant manager and stuff. I mean, if our people weren't well trained and well equipped, we were going to set them up for failure.
Yeah.
And the same thing applies to our police, our fire, our emergency services folks. I mean, if they aren't well trained and well equipped, we're setting them up for failure to try and respond to any of the numerous things that could possibly come their way. There was just some big hazmat training that took place last weekend. They had 40-some people in our building there in Fallston going through some statewide hazmat training. So training and equipping our people for success is vitally important to all of us.
We were talking about the water or the malfunction, whatever it was at Ambridge that's still affecting. That same morning, there was a train derailment.
Yeah.
I think in Big Beaver, 10 or 15 cars.
Yeah.
When you see that, do you think there, but for the grace of God, because they were box cars and not something worse?
Yeah, well, two thoughts went through my mind. Why did I just find out about this 2 days later? Because nobody knew about it when it happened, at least at the county level.
Okay.
Maybe the folks in Big Beaver Borough did or something.
Right.
Because of the 8 cars. And this is part of my frustration in dealing with the railroads that kind of have their own world that they operate in. But obviously there's a lot of freight, a lot of truck, a lot of rail,
Right.
a lot of shipping, barges that go up and down. All of those could lead to, if we don't have the right infrastructure, which is why rebuilding the Montgomery locks and dams
Yes.
is important. You have a disaster at one of those, or you have a disaster on the railroads. And when we talk about roads and bridges, again, everybody looks at the county and the PennDOT bridges, but the railroad has a ton of bridges here. And I don't know who is overseeing
I was
them.
about to
And
ask
this
you who's
happened-
in
and this-
charge of that.
and
You
this
don't
happened-
know.
No, the railroads are in charge of it. They're in charge of it. That can be very frustrating for us. As you know, just getting the Ambridge Aliquippa Bridge inspected took us 9 months longer than it needed to be because we were waiting for permission from CSX to shut down the line for half a day so that the folks could go up on the lift. The PennDOT inspectors could go up on the lift and check underneath.
It took
the
nine
bridge.
9 months for CSX to get back to you and say, yeah, okay.
Well, they kept getting back to us, and then we thought we had something said, and then they'd cancel them. So we were playing whack-a-mole there, trying to get the right days. Because they have to send out flaggers, shut down the lines.
Sure.
And I understand that's a disruption to the flow
Right.
of commerce and stuff, but,
Yeah.
you know.
It's a
but
bigger
the,
disruption if the bridge falls.
the bridge is pretty important,
Yeah.
The
Jack,
good news is, by the way, it's in fair shape. It's, the decking and everything, so the bridge is
well,
good.
fair is good.
But yeah, in the 3-tiered poor, fair, good
Yeah.
rating system that Pennsylvania uses.
Jack, you always school me up. Jack Manning, it's Ask the Commissioners. Thank you, sir.
My pleasure, Eddie. as
Teleforum
always.
continues after the news. It's 1230 WBVP, 1460 WMBA, 99.3 FM, presented by St. Barnabas. And yeah, bridges are very important when it comes to trains crossing them. Beaver County Radio.
Did you ever think you would see a day when nobody showed up for the big city holiday parades or pro sports events? This is Michelle from Laughlin Insurance Agency in Rochester. If nothing else, this past year has taught us that things we never considered possible can happen and that nobody can predict the future. At the Laughlin Agency, your Penn National insurance provider, we give you the ability to protect against loss during unexpected times. Who knows what the future holds? Visit LaughlinInsAgency.com.